You're listening to the RE Social Podcast with your hosts, Andrew and Vince from OnV Invest. For more information, go to onvinvest.com.
What's up, you guys? Welcome to another episode of RE Social Podcast. And today we have a cool guest from Midwest, maybe, Tommy Harr. How are you, man?
Doing great, man. I appreciate your time. Excited to get to know you and share a little bit about my story.
Yeah, man, me too. The only thing I know about Ohio is one of my very good buddies, Prashant. He went to Ohio State. So I've been to Columbus, and that was a good party town, man.
Yeah, biggest game of the year. It's Thanksgiving was yesterday. Tomorrow is Ohio State versus Michigan. So city kind of shuts down. That's like the biggest rivalry in college sports. So it's like a holiday.
Yeah, dude, he really got into the college football scene. And actually, when I was there, we went to a game. It was pretty cool.
Oh, wow.
And funny, he moved to Michigan and he always gets into trouble in bars there because he's like having the Ohio State jersey and just like getting into trouble.
Yeah, man, people live and die over this stuff. I'm not really like that, but some of my friends are, some of my family are just like, man, some people don't even take their life that seriously, and they'll fight over Michigan versus Ohio State. It's crazy.
I know, dude. It's crazy. So for people who don't know what you're up to, man, can you give like a 90-second intro about yourself?
Sure. So like I said, I'm from Ohio, born and raised in Columbus. I'm 29 years old. Graduated from University of Dayton 2017, so a small college in Ohio, and became a home inspector with my dad. So my dad has always been a home inspector. He was in property preservation when I was growing up. So when the banks were foreclosing in 08, 09, on to like 13, 14, I grew up kind of in that business. So trashing out a lot of houses for the banks, cleaning them up, boarding them up, changing the locks, winterizing them, all that good stuff. And then became a home inspector. That business had dissolved by the time I graduated college, and just pretty much learned everything from the ground up house-wise. And at the same time, started getting into bigger pockets, starting to learn about investing because I loved just the idea of having financial freedom and money. I flipped my first house when I was 23. Me and my uncle did that together. I lost $100,000 on that with him. And then fast forward 6 years to today, I'm not a home inspector anymore. I'm still licensed, but I don't practice. We own about 65 units. When I say I have a 50-50 partner with most of my business now. 65 units. We wholesale primarily as well, and we do probably 10 to 15 flips at a time as well. So kind of vertically integrated our business and growing from there.
Man, that's a lot in 90 seconds. Damn, bro. That's pretty cool. You know, I take down some notes, and you said you lost 100K on your first deal. Let's talk about that. Like, how did that happen, and how was your mindset before and after?
Yeah. So, I mean, my mindset before, it was kind of like going into business in general, was I thought it was going to be easy. I thought it was just going to be like, because you listen to it so much and people make it kind of sound easy online. So it was a house, 4,000 square foot, 6 beds, 5 baths, or 5 beds, 6 baths, one of the two. I lived in it with a buddy. So an old soccer teammate, I played soccer in college as well, of mine, was living in the house with me, bouncing room to room as we renovated it. I hired a contractor who was terrible and just kind of overshot ARV. So we thought ARV was like 850, ended up selling for 710. We held on to it for 18 months, over rehabbed, should have fired the contractors way before. Pretty much all the rookie mistakes you can make in the book. But the mindset part of it was at the end, after I knew it was going bad, I wasn't going to let it deter me. I knew that one failure can't let it kind of slow everything up in your life. So, and I listened to so many podcasts and read so many books of people succeeding, and I was just like, I can't just let this sink me.
Okay, a couple of follow-up questions. So, you said you did it with your uncle, right?
Mm-hmm.
So your dad is just on the home inspection business side. He's not really a flipper kind of deal, right?
Yeah.
And
so
then,
they maybe
okay.
Go ahead.
No, sorry, go for it.
They maybe flipped like one house as I was growing up, like kind of a hobby, but it never was really talked about. Until really I'd done a few, and they're like, oh yeah, by the way, we did it once. And they never did it again. But he does the home inspections. He still does. He's been doing it about 23 years. He owns a franchise. So it's a good ancillary business for sure. And I helped him buy about 5 rentals. I think it was 2020, maybe 2019, 2020. I helped him buy 5 units, renovated them, me and maybe another contractor. I manage them for them now. So helped them build some passive income.
For your dad, your dad has 5 rentals and you kind of manage it. You don't have any equity in that.
No.
Okay. So tell me about your uncle. So what was your uncle's deal? Was he not experienced, or what's the deal?
So he lives in Chicago, and he called me right before I graduated college, and he was like, "Tom, I know you're somewhat of a hustler. Do you want to invest in real estate with me in Chicago?" And I was like, "No, I'm going back home to work with my dad. I didn't know what I didn't know." And turns out so I started inspecting, and we started doing draw inspections for a bunch of investors. So if you get a hard money loan or even anything that has to do with a bank with a renovation loan, they hold money in escrow for the rehab funds. So I was the person, me and my dad, to go out to the projects, take pictures, make sure things were done. The bank would draw the money out. So I was starting to see now all these houses getting flipped, starting to learn the lifestyle that these investors were living and the money they were making, right? So I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. So long story short, I called my uncle and I said, "Hey, I know you talked about Chicago. Would you ever think about partnering up in Columbus?" And he ended up saying yes. He said, "Hey, start looking for some deals, and I'll fund them. You manage the projects, and we'll be partners." And that's kind of how it went. The first one went pretty bad, obviously, and the relationship kind of went sour towards the end. I was still very young. My mindset was still not that great. I was like blaming other people. It wasn't.
Sorry to cut you off, but I wanted to go a little bit deeper on this particular one. So, a lot of our listeners, or, most people, if they just talk about, oh, look, I got 65 units, I'm a millionaire, la, 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 right? But I want to actually educate people like what actually went wrong, right? So in this particular partnership, your uncle, is he the finance guy or is he bringing the experienced guy?
He was the finance guy.
He was the finance guy. So he's relying on you to run comps and find out how much the properties are worth?
We kind of did that together. So we did the evaluation together, and he was going to do financing. So he pulled a HELOC on his house.
Okay.
And I think pulled a line of credit somewhere else. He didn't really talk about the financing piece too much to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was his role.
Okay. So then you kind of weird because he's doing flips. So I would feel like he would know more to kind of like.
He had never done one.
He's never done one. Oh, okay. I see. Okay.
He's a finance guy. He sells like financial software in Chicago.
Okay. All right. So you guys did your numbers, whatever you learned from podcasts and books and rehab. Probably you read the Jay Scott's book.
Exactly.
And then you did the numbers, but when you went to the bank, because you still had to get a hard money loan or something on it, right? Wouldn't they do the ARV and be like, nah, bro, this is like overshot. They didn't do anything. They just gave you the money. Kind of weird.
He didn't get a hard money loan. He did it all on a HELOC. So we paid cash.
Wow. Oh, okay. So that's the. So a lot of listeners, I want to, people listening to know that, if you actually, one of the reasons you go to hard money is you don't have money and you would want to lend from those guys, which is cost you more. However, one of the benefits is there's going to be underwriters and they're going to be like, nah, bro, this is not worth $1 million. It's only worth 600. So they'll cut you short. But that's I think the lesson there, right?
Yeah, to me, that's the best part about using hard money as a beginner. And I tell people that all the time. And you're the only person I've ever heard say that, which I love, because it's your second layer of defense. If you have they're going to tell you. They're not going to land on a bad deal. They don't want that on their books. Yeah. So I always highly recommend people use hard money because, once again, like if you have a private money lender, that's amazing. But if they don't know how to evaluate the deal, it could be a really bad concoction for losing money.
Yeah. That's such a good learning lesson, man. I'm so interested now, dude, to learn more of your story. This is crazy. Okay. So you go in hard, 100 grand on the face. So you call your uncle, be like, hey, bro, your 100 grand is gone. Is that the conversation? Or did you take half the hit?
So no, I kind of played it forward over time, but I didn't have any money still. So
of course.
It kind of ended so sour at the end where it was a partnership, but he was belittling, and I probably deserved it 100%. But we didn't talk for a little while, and over time, it's gotten better. A few drunk texts on my end, and telling him I'm sorry, things like that. So
that's cool, man. That's cool. Now that you're doing better, you can always pay it back, or even I would even recommend some people, definitely not giving you advice, but it's like if you think there's potential as family, even if you can stake the whole 100 grand, if you can afford it at some point. And then, now you get the relationship back, So I'm very pro relationship. So my best friend, Andrew, he's my business partner. And then my biggest investor is my sister. So sometimes, like we lose money every month and then I still pay her. because I want to keep the relationship, so it's kind of like, it's very interesting. Okay. So go back to you. So you got the 100 grand loss on the nose. Now you're going back home crying. What are you doing now?
So I went back, lived in my parents' basement again.
Okay.
Just I knew I wanted to continue to try and do real estate, but I had no money again. But I was still inspecting full time. So I was at the same time.
You're making some money.
Yeah, making some money. My dad's paying me like 35 grand a year though. So it's not much at all.
Yeah, sure.
So, and I like it, everything starts to kind of happen at once. So I wanted to start wholesaling. So as I was flipping that house, and before that, I was learning about wholesaling. I'm 23, 24 years old now. I know that
I'm still on. You can keep talking. I'll switch it on.
I know that's a great way to create money. So I sent out postcards. So I bought a list on what was the service at that time? It was the one that Bigger Pockets would always say, List Source. So I bought a list from List Source, did postcards. I spent my last $800. I remember being at my parents' table, sent them out, and I was like, okay, this is going to be it. I'm going to get a deal from this. I ended up getting 3 phone calls from that 1,500 person list. One of them was the next deal of mine, where it was a house in Columbus, 3-bed, 1-bath, much easier, manageable house with a lot of comps. I took it to a deal maker. There used to be a big deal maker session or meetup in Columbus. I took it to there to try and wholesale it. Nobody wanted it. So I had just kind of went. So everything kind of goes back to the Bigger Pockets way of, you got to figure it out. Or hey, if you think it's a deal, call everybody in your phone. So that's what I did. I called everybody in my phone and saw if anybody wanted to lend on the property. And one of my old neighbors, who was a realtor for 30 years, said, hey, I'll give you the money if we split it 50-50. So long story short, it's so funny saying it again now, but she wrote me a check to my personal name at her dinner table, a check. I put it in my bank account. It was a college account. It froze my account because I'd never had more than $1,000 in it. Didn't close the right day, but ended up making 50 grand on that total. I split 50 or 25 with her, and then 25 went to me. And that was my first win in the real estate game.
And that was just a wholesale?
No, I ended up flipping it. So I ended up
flipping it. So what did you learn from the previous to this? Did you learn like how to do comps?
Yeah. So, I mean, I knew how to kind of comp. That area that we did it in was just, if you go one street one way, it's just so different. I didn't really know how drastic micro.
Every city is like that.
Yes. Yeah. So this area, 3-bed, 1-bath, 1,100 square foot. There was hundreds of. It was just one of those neighborhoods that that's all they are. So I knew closely what it was going to sell for, and it was just such low risk. And really, I had no other option. I mean, it was kind of just like fight or flight. This was my dream, so I just went for it.
Sure. Okay. So you got that first deal that profitable, 25 grand. So what are you doing next?
Yeah. So right before that was about to close, I ended up buying my first house hack. So bought a duplex for $185,000 with an FHA loan, but right around $9,000 down. I didn't have the money because that house hadn't closed yet. And my mom lent me $6,000 to get it to the closing table. Yeah. So she helped me out.
Shout out to mom.
Shout out to mom. She, we'll talk about my mom here in a little bit if you want, but she quit her job, works for me full time now. But
hell yeah, dude. I love family stuff.
Yeah, that's kind of the reason why I do all this stuff. But one unit was rented for $800 already. She still lives there today, 5 years later. $800. My mortgage was $1,500, 3-bed, 1.5 bath. The other side, I used the rest of the 25 grand to re-side it, put new windows in, do new HVAC on my side, and then I laid floors. I did countertops, cabinets, all that stuff, and rented 2 of my bedrooms out to friends for $450 a pop, and I was cash flowing $100 or breaking even right around there. And
what year was this?
This was 2019. So
2019. Real quick, 2019. You bought it for $180K. What is it worth now?
At least $350.
$350. And then you said that the lady who rents for $800 in 2019. What's the rent now?
$800.
Okay. You're a nice landlord. Do you see, guys? This is why we need more Americans to own property. I know people are like, oh, everybody's buying property. They should only be allowed to be buying one. If he doesn't buy it, BlackRock's going to buy it, and the rent will be $10,000. Like literally, like crazy. All right, go for it. Sorry.
She's a sweetheart. So she helped. I mean, been a really nice tenant, and she never calls. And then about 6 months into that one, so I knew that I was gaining equity because I did a lot of sweat equity and a little bit of money into it. Uh, it was a typical duplex, so kitchen, living room. The front door didn't really work, so and we only hung out in that room. In the middle living room, we didn't. So me being 24, probably 25 at this time now, single, no girlfriend or anything. I created a barn door with one of my contractors, and I lived in my living room. So I lived in my living room, rented my last bedroom out to one of my best friends at the time for $400 more. So now I'm cash flowing $500, living in my house, living in my living room, and just kind of doing what other people wouldn't.
That's awesome, man. So, okay. So going along with that story, I know I'll come back to your timeline, but over a period of time, I know the equity has gone up. I'm sure you locked it at a lower interest rate at some point. Now, is the equity now stuck, or did you try to pull it out when, how did that go?
So I made a mistake with that. So towards 2020, when rates were crazy low, I refinanced that property. It priced for $270 a year later, but I rate and termed it into a 2.25 or 2.75. So I dropped from a 5.25 down to 2.75, dropped my PMI, and dropped my payment. So it went from like 1572 to 1136 it is now. Mm-hmm. So my cash flow grew exponentially, but I didn't really, sorry, my dog. I didn't really know about the cash out portion of it. So what I should have done, so I now look at everything in the terms of, if I refinanced it, how long would it take me to make that tax-free cash and monthly cash flow? I should have taken the 30, 40 grand at the time, and I just didn't know it. But I got my FHA loan back, and I moved 2 blocks up to another duplex and did it again.
Nah, dude. I mean, sure. In 2020 hindsight, whatever, all that stuff is true. You could have done all that, but I would say you did the right thing at that point in your investing career. I mean, like, you took the PMI out, you played it safe. You put yourself in a position where you can't lose. Like you went from no PMI to like $500 less. That's the sure shot for a win. It's like a slower win, sure, but I like that. I like everything you're doing. Up to this point is cool. Okay, so. We lost 100 grand. We made 25 grand, and then we locked in the third property. You're living in it now. What did you do after that?
Yeah, so right about that time is when things started to really click. So I'm 2 years in, 2.5 years in, probably. I had been learning how to wholesale. I probably wholesaled a couple deals while I was in that first house. Flipped another house. Had a little bit of money, so like I said, I refinanced that FHA loan. I did it again, 2 blocks up, another duplex. Didn't have all the roommates this time. I only brought one because I wanted to not live in my living room again and live for free again. So I got a 2.25% interest rate. I closed like January 1st of 2021.
30-year fix?
Huh?
30-year fix?
2.25.
That's Dude, crazy.
Yeah. Crazy. I'm never refinancing that unless I just get in crazy amount of equity. Yeah. My payment's like $1,800. Both sides now rent for $1,400 and $1,500. So great cash flow there. I put 15 grand down. It was already turnkey. So just kind of did that.
Are these nice neighborhoods, Tommy?
I would call it a C+, B-. It's a path of progress neighborhood. It's a neighborhood that's downtown Columbus is here. It's right, like if anybody here is listening, German Village, Marion Village. So German Village is A-class, beautiful. Marion's still a little rough around the edges, but houses are selling for the 300.
Can your mom walk in the night by herself?
Yeah, you can walk at night. So I'm married now. I would be okay with my wife walking.
Oh, really? There. Okay. Well, then I would say it's definitely a B- at least.
Yeah. Yeah, it's probably B-.
That's cool. All right, cool. All right, so you got the second house act, so you're living there, and then at this point in your stuff, you've given up doing inspections. So how are you making day to day?
Not yet. So
you're still making money there.
So I'm making some money. So I never really my dad gave me a little bit of a raise on paper to buy that second house because I really still had a W-2.
So I was making 40, 45K, whatever.
Right around that, 50 grand-ish. And nice. The W-2 really helped me grow my portfolio at least to like 10 to 12 units. That was an amazing, amazing thing that I tell everybody to do. Make sure that you utilize that to the highest degree, even if you hate it, because once you go full-time, it's so much harder to get good debt. So use that. I think I bought a couple more rentals, a duplex and a couple singles. And at that same time, so I grew my dad's business from like a one-man show to then I hired an inspector. I was trying to grow that business and he'd been doing it for so long. He really didn't want to grow like that. So I met my business partner during the hard money draw inspection. So he was buying a house from a wholesaler. I was the inspector on it. The person that was selling it was 30 minutes late. So we got about 20 minutes to kind of just hang out and talk like strangers. And then for some rhyme or reason, 3 to 4 to 5 months later, we became business partners, and we just said, "Hey, let's try this together. We have opposite skill sets. I like you. I like you. You like me. I think we could be really good at this together." And that first year, I think we wholesaled probably 50 properties together. So we kind of just exploded.
You and your dad?
No, me and my new business partner.
Oh, the guy you hired to do the inspection?
So no, I was doing a hard money draw inspection for
What's the hard money draw inspection? What is that?
So you get a hard money loan, they have to do their due diligence. They send an inspector out and or an appraiser. They have to go do their feasibility study to make sure your scope is okay.
Yeah.
So I was there to do that, and my now business partner was buying the house. So we
sick, dude. Networking.
Yeah, exactly. So we were just like kind of hanging out, and the story gets funnier because the guy that refereed my wedding back in July was the guy that was late. So the guy that was late, he was hungover, and he gave us 20 minutes to hang out, and it was just kind of like an automatic, like, I like this guy, he likes me. Let's see what we can do here.
That's sick, man. Okay, so that business is going pretty good, the wholesaling business side of things. So you're still doing that. So then, okay, well, you got like a couple of duplexes and stuff. You're just using a W-2 income, just buying owner occupied. I'm assuming, just using those loans, a little money down. But how did you go from 1, 2, 3 to like 65 units? What's going on there?
Yeah, so by myself, I probably had 15 before I started buying with my business partner.
All owner occ loans every year or whatever?
No. So at that same time, like in the first house hack, I bought probably 4 units. All using the BRRRR method. So I was gaining confidence. I was making a little more money on the wholesale. I was starting to network with the right people. So I started seeing good deals. So took down a couple, did the BRRRR method, and then really kind of just continuously did that. So I had about 15 myself, and then me and my wholesaling partner, for about a year, we really just wholesaled. He had another business partner, which was his best friend growing up. They had a couple units themselves. I did mine, and we kind of just felt each other out. We were like, "Hey, I trust you now, but once you start buying assets together and owning them together, it's different." So let's call it like quote unquote dating for a little while. And then after a while, we're like, "Hey, our morals align. We both are hustling. Let's start buying some of these together," because we were wholesaling like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And we just decided to start buying them. So 2021 and into the first part of 2022, we probably bought 40 units together, like pretty fast.
How did you have the money?
I'm pretty good at raising private money. So pretty much all private money.
So how are you raising that? Sorry, go for it. I don't want to cut you.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask you, I don't want to cut you off. You're saying something first. Let's hear that.
No, I was just saying my home inspection life gave me a lot of good credibility to people. So really just posting on my Instagram stories for a long time, just walking through nasty houses and meeting the right people, and then eventually sharing my knowledge actually like on Instagram. That's really where I raise a lot of my money in networking.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask you. So, it's so funny. I'll talk about my story later, but it's very similar to yours. We started on the same time. We started doing very similar things, and then it's very interesting. So the private money side. So okay, so you got a couple of you got a lot of wholesale deals. You got deals by yourself, 12 units. So now you're just sharing this on social media, and the guys who are following, are they just your friends and family and just random people?
At the time, yeah. So
did you do anything to grow that at that point or no?
Not really at the time. No, it wasn't like a conscious decision to do it. I wasn't doing like educational stuff like I do now. It was more just like, hey, I'm at this nasty house. I'm going to record it. And I was in houses all day, every day. So people just got to see, and it wasn't really intentional at all. It was just like, hey, I'm here. We shoot a couple videos, just quick stories. I didn't really post like long forms or post much.
Okay. So talk to the listeners about the first deal that you were going to buy for yourself, and how you got that private money lender, and how you split up the equity.
Okay. So the first one I talked about, where the lady wrote the check on her table.
That was just a flip. That was the first private money lender. So that was good. And then she's still there. So she's still there.
She actually never lent again. So she came to my wedding. She came to my wedding party a couple of months ago, and she's like, "Hey, like, remember when we did that? That was cool. I want to do it again." So I was like, "All right, sweet, let's do it." Like 200 deals, 250 deals later, but
Oh, so she's now going to do another deal?
yeah, she probably will. I just got to call her.
Okay, so
But
now the second deal is now for people who are listening. There's a couple of things you can do with real estate. Just you could be an active income guy, right? So that's kind of like a W-2, wholesale, flips, all of the stuff that Tommy's been talking about. Those are all active. So now he's graduated. Now he's going on to raise private capital. Now he's talking about equity, and he's going to be. I don't know how he did the deal, but it sounds like you might be giving them equity, but you're raising it for a long-term hold, right?
Yep.
Okay.
So now I don't give away equity at all anymore. So
Okay,
after
sounds
that,
good.
I've never given away equity for money.
Okay.
It's just the stuff I was
He's just
learning.
raising debt.
So raising debt. So the first one that I did, I bought a duplex. It was right around $65,000. And I'll never forget it. It was literally like the day COVID hit and like everybody was starting to shut down. I remember sitting because I was already in contract. It was from a wholesaler. It was a duplex. And I remember like everything was shutting down. I'm like, well, I'm supposed to close this deal in like a week. Like, what am I going to do? And I called the guy. So the guy that went on the deal, he's a realtor. And like I said, I was a home inspector. I was doing a lot of inspections for him. He went to high school with my older sister. So he knew me, he knew my family, he was in my sphere of influence, right? So he was there. He had known who I was, and I wouldn't stop talking about real estate. I was just like that gnat that never would go away. So once again, he was like, dude, if you find a deal, just call me. So I called him, and I didn't even know how to draft private money docs. I didn't even know what documents you needed. I didn't even know what interest rates you were doing. I didn't even look. And this is me, I'm being completely honest when I'm saying this. I didn't look at what he charged me interest rate and points wise until like 2 years later when I was trying to figure out my terrible accounting books.
Mm-hmm.
So
what did he charge you?
He charged me 15 and 5.
Bro, that guy is a scammer.
He still lends me this day.
That's insane, bro. That is the credit card right there.
It was such a low purchase price. So like the loan was 90. So like 5 points of 90 is what, like $2,400 or something like that. So
no, bro, it's $4,500. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, it is a lot of money. But at the time,
now if you made like 20% cap rate or something on it, so it doesn't matter. So that's important.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, like this is why I tell people that are getting started, that deal, you're not really going to remember it that much because you're getting the deal done. And at the end of the day, I'm the risk in that scenario. I had never really done it before. I didn't have a track record. So if you don't have that to kind of, or a lot of money to back it up, you got to kind of take what you can get. So he did it. I think the property appraised for like 140, 150. I completely burred out of it. It was cash flowing at about $1,000. I just sold it like a year ago. I don't really sell a lot of my stuff, but I made like $100,000 on it. So if I didn't take it, I would probably be in a position where I would be like, man, I could have made a lot of money on that house.
So you were paying him 15% a year for last 2-3 years?
I refinanced out of the private loan. So he was just a year-long note. I think I refinanced it 6 months.
Okay. So guys, so just for math, I'm a nerd, I'm an engineer. So just for math, so 15% interest and 5 points. Who can tell me how much interest he paid? He only held it for, half a year, right? Nobody can tell him. Nobody's doing math. It's actually more than 20% because he only held it for half a year. So that 5% is actually 10%, right? And then he paid the 15%. So he paid 25% on his money, but he made $100,000. 25% on $100,000 is whatever, 25 grand. So that's pretty good still.
Yeah. And I was cash flowing about $1,000 a month. Now this was in a rougher area, so there was an eviction or two within that 4-year period. It was a little bit of a headache, but
that's a cool story. I like that.
It is. It's cool, and it all kind of just stacks on top of each other. So a lot of these deals, they just gave me a lot of confidence, and it all stacks. It starts really slow. You take a couple losses, but then now I'm doing these. I'm like, man, okay, I know what I'm doing now. I think I can start. You said in the beginning, relationships are the best thing. I always say that as well. I'm never going to take any of my family or friends' money that I love because I don't want to lose the money because that means I in turn am going to lose the relationship. I would rather, worst case scenario, lose a stranger's money, which I never have, but I would just to make sure that I can have that friendship and love with somebody.
Yeah, man, that's so important to know, It's like that's like the biggest thing that I've realized is I like people and I like people who do similar things, right? So I would say I probably like you more than a lot of the people I just meet every day. because it's not because you're what a great guy or whatever, but it's just our visions and goals are very aligned. So if I hang out with you, I know it's going to be a good time. We're going to be progressing in life, like talking about things that we want to build, right? So that those kind of things is just it's so interesting because you can have these meetups. I do these meetups or events, and I have people come to these things. It's free, they can eat and have a good time. And then some people, are very aligned, and then we start buying stuff together. It's so interesting. All right, so let's go back to you. So you started doing these kind of deals now more like are you borrowing from him, or you attracting another private lender?
Have you thought about investing in real estate and taking advantage of all of those benefits without any of the work? That is something that OnV Invest not only provides, but has been providing since its inception. With friends and family, we have built an empire and a system of a wealth generating tool that is giving us and our friends and family that leverage in their life to create true wealth. Go to onvinvest.com for more to see if you qualify. And thanks for listening.
Borrowing from him, or you attracting another private lender?
So he was primarily the first one, and he did a couple. So I was doing about one at a time, and then I did the whole thing where you lock up a house and you don't know where the money's going to come from, and he was tapped out. So at the time, we had done, like I said, about 50 wholesale deals, and we had sold probably 30 to one guy. So I went back through my phone list again. I had a mentor now. I called him. I called another person that I'd done a bunch of inspections for. They were like, no, I can't do it. So I was like, man, who has money? I was like, well, this guy named Ryan has bought 30 deals from us, maybe this year and a half. He has to have some cash or access to cash. So I called him and I said, hey, I know we've been doing good business. I feel like we have a good relationship. Do you want to lend on this deal? And he goes, no, but let me make a quick phone call. And I think I have somebody that may. So he then called a friend, and this friend, his name is Jim. Jim, he's like, hey, this guy's going to call you. Be ready. He called me, 5-minute conversation. He lent me $156,000 off a 5-minute conversation and a voucher from the person that I had the relationship with. And now he lends me a couple million at a time.
Wait, so this guy is Ryan's buddy, or is it Ryan?
No, it's Ryan's buddy.
So Ryan, you called Ryan and said, hey, bro, like this is what I'm doing. And he's like, all right, I'm tapped out, but my buddy X has money.
Yep, exactly.
And then you just did a conversation with him, and he vouched for you.
Yep. So he called Jim, and he said, hey, this guy Tom, I'm kind of making up this conversation, but hey, I've done good business with these guys. They do what they say they're going to do. He's a home inspector. And then he called me back. He's like, hey, I think Jim's going to do it. Make sure you pick up the phone when he calls. And Jim called. He's like, how much money you need? $156,000. Okay, when you need to close? Next week. Done. Whose title company is this? Let's do it. I was like, well, shit, that's pretty awesome.
And what did he want for points and rate?
He charges 15 or 16% on his private money.
And then points?
No points.
Oh, this guy's legit. That's cool.
Solid. So he lends out of a self-directed IRA, and also brokers some of his friends' money out of IRA. So he's an older gentleman, and that whole game is amazing once you learn about it too.
Is he underwriting the deals too?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. And what game? Sorry.
But he'll look at them a little bit. He trusts me now, but
now of course, yeah. So what game did you say you're talking about, the self-directed IRA stuff? That's interesting.
Just being able to, so everybody has, well, they say like 44% of people have 401ks in America. And most people, if you leave a job, that means you have a non-contributing IRA. So if you go start a new job, you have this IRA that's sitting there and you have no idea, and you think you can't touch it till you're 65. What you can do is roll that into a self-directed IRA using a company, whatever company you want to use. So they call it a custodian. So you get a custodian, they roll it for you legally, and you can lend that on kind of whatever you want within the parameters of that custodian. One of those being real estate. So what that means is they can now take their retirement funds, roll it into a self-directed IRA, and now that person can lend me money on my deals at an interest rate that we determine together. And when that deal pays out, principal and interest back to the IRA company, that's tax deferred until it's taken out in full when they're 65 or whenever they want to take it out. So it's a massive compounding interest vehicle, and you can double, triple, quadruple somebody's retirement funds if you do it properly.
Yeah, that's really key, guys. I mean, that's just it's so funny. We do everything the same stuff. Like my sister worked for a company a long time ago. I was like, hey, didn't you have a 401k? She's like, I think so. And we dig it up, and she had 50 grand in it. I was like, all right, cool. So I went to directed IRA, which is not my buddies, but I kind of know them, Matt and Mark Kohler. I don't know if you know them, KKO's lawyers and stuff. They're my I am their client. I'm not affiliated, but I use them. So anyway, so we moved the 50K into that, and then I borrowed it out for my business, and I just pay that, and then obviously 401ks. Anybody who's listening, most people, half the US has 401k, and you can take up to 50% or $50,000 max. And then once you pay it back, you can borrow it again. So that's how, like my brother-in-law, I take my buddy Steve, Michelle, everybody has money in that, and then we just borrow that, and then now they have equity. But I give equity, but yours is more fruitful. So I like to buy stuff with people. That's kind of cool.
Nice. That's really cool. Yeah, I mean, the way I'm doing it is more risky, because if I can't do the construction really fast or get out of the deal, then that interest is accruing no matter what, and I have to pay the lender off. So we've had deals that we've won massively on, and we've had deals that I've lost, and I have to pay my lender. I'll lose 20 grand. My lender makes 20 grand. It's just part of the game. So you got to understand there are risks involved. It's not just what you see on Instagram as, hey, I borrowed money and I made 50 grand, So some stuff does go sideways. So you got to be able to you can underwrite a deal properly. And if you don't know how to do that, make sure you can partner with somebody that does know how to.
Yeah, man, that's so key. Education is really good. That's why I have this podcast to educate people. It's free for them. It costs me like $15,000 to $20,000 a year to just run my podcast and my meetups and stuff. Just just events and all those things. And there's not really any return for me other than building the brand, and people invest sometimes, right? Of course. But, I tell people like it's so important. People don't even know the difference between debt and equity, right? So let's just take this example. I just want to break down some of the stuff you're saying because it's super high level and a lot of people won't get it. So what we're talking about is he does, Tommy does deals. Do you go by Tom or Tommy?
Tommy's good.
Okay, cool. So Tommy goes in partners with people, but he borrows the money as debt, right? So what I do is the opposite. I do not do mostly debt. Most of my deals are equity. So the difference comes in Tony. I keep saying Tony. Tommy gets to keep all of the upside. However, if there is an upside, there's nobody sharing the downside with him, right? So if there's a downside, he's going to lose all that money, because they can foreclose on his property because they have a note or a lien against that property. That's how you secure the debt. So my stuff, like I partnered with my sister. My sister's invested like probably $500,000. She probably owned millions of dollars with me. Now, if my property doesn't perform, she's not getting anything. I'll just call her and be like, hey, so you own 50% of so many deals. Yeah, we're not making money. I'm not obligated to give her any money because she's an equity partner. Now, but if I borrowed money from her or her, like a 401k, or it's a monthly debt payment, I have to pay. So that's the big difference. So if you can play the downside game, which will always be better in the long term if you do properly for the people who get the equity. But the debt side is like a fixed. You're getting the amount no matter what. And based on how much the LTVs are, this gets more complicated. You're pretty secure if you're, especially the first line. You're the debt one. They call it, what do they call it? Primary debt or whatever.
First holder.
First position. Yeah. So if you're first position and let's say you're the lender, you're lending at 50% loan to value, you literally have the property crash by 50% and you can still get the money back. So that's pretty safe. So that's why that's all I wanted to say. So people understand. Do you have anything to add?
That's great stuff. That's great stuff. I mean, there's a million ways to make $1 million. Your way is no better or worse than mine. It's just you got to figure out as a listener, what are you comfortable with? Are you okay with losing money? If you check no on that, then raising private money may not be the best option for you. And one more thing on private money, if you're going to do it my way, which is raising debt and giving the property as collateral, so you're signing personally on it. So I sign every note personally, and I sign a note in a mortgage that gets recorded at the county. I don't pay monthly payments to my lenders. Now, I do this because of cash flow purposes. So as I said in the beginning, I'm doing 10 to 15 flips at a time. I'm raising capital for all of those deals. So say if I have a $100,000 loan for each one of those, and I'm paying 12% interest, that's $1,200 on each of those per month times 15. That's 36 grand or whatever it is out of my pocket every month to service that debt. Whereas if I can accrue it towards the exit, which is the sale or the refinance, I can then bake that into my numbers on the front end and run my team efficiently and keep my cash flow way tighter. So highly recommend negotiating that into your contract, your note, on the front end.
Yeah, if you're a lender, or if you have a good contact and you guys are pretty tight, they would do that. But newer people, they might not do that. So that's
Hard money.
yeah, relationship. So so now you have this method is what's taking you. So that guy is the main guy. The Ryan's buddy Jim is the main guy who lends you, or you have other private money too.
I have other now. So
Okay.
as social media has grown and as I've like purposefully gone out to raise capital.
And what are you doing that? You going to a bar talking to people? What's happening?
Networking is one. Social media is just another one. Just educating people. So, like for example, I go live on Monday nights every Monday. So we got about 100,000 Instagram followers now, and I just sat there for an hour to like 100 people that were on there, and I talked about how to raise capital. So that was going to be really good for a few people. Yeah. Okay. So it's good for people that want to learn how to do what I'm doing, but also if you don't want to be a full-time investor and have the risk and the all the stress on doing what I'm doing, you can just lend the money and make passively. So I had a couple of people DM me right after that and said, "Hey, I love what you're doing. Like, how can I get involved?" I got one person's like, "I got $175,000 in an IRA. If we can roll that, let's do it." So just like talking about it, educating, and just like being purposeful. And the last thing about private money is you got to learn that it's an opportunity of a lifetime for somebody. Like if somebody can learn to invest in your deals and you are good, where else are they making 10, 12, 14, 16% preferred return? That's never guaranteed, but it's very predictable rate of return backed by a real asset that if I don't pay you back, they can just take it from me.
Do you ever listen to Amy Majuri? Sounds like her pitch. Oh, no. Okay. So she's got this thing. She's Persian. Her company is called Raising Private Money, RPM. And then I've been to her seminar, and that's her 2-minute or 30-second elevator pitch. Is like, where can you get, so much, backed by real estate. That's really good. Yeah. That's awesome, man. So that's really shaped your career. That's so how did you keep going? This is a little bit more philosophical. How did you keep going when, like you're getting bashed in the face, losing money and, all these things? Like what is your thing? Are you like a faith guy? Like what's going on?
I'm an ex-athlete and I had a lot of injuries. I played Division I soccer. I don't always talk about that a lot. It doesn't really matter. But the injury side of it really shaped me into like what the real world is like. I mean, nothing happens in a straight line. I thought I was going to join my dad's business and get paid 100 grand and it was going to be easy. And then you quickly learn that it's not that way. Yeah, I mean, you just got to know that it's going to take a really long time to build a life that you want to actually to live. So I just thought about it. I really wanted financial freedom, and I was not going to let anything stop me from getting to it. So when I lose money on deals, it's just okay. What can I learn from that loss, and how can I never do it again? So now I'm trying to I call it fail. People call it fail forward. I want to get as quickly to failure as I can on anything new I try, because I'm going to learn from it and I'm going to implement it, build procedures, scopes of work, or SOPs, whatever you want to call it, to never do it again.
Wow, that's really cool. So now you have, that's crazy, man. That kind of mentality now has taken you from a negative 100 grand or 50 grand in net worth to a $15 million portfolio, 65 horse. How is that? That's a 50-50 split with your buddy who you do stuff with. And how's that LTV? Like, how much equity do you have in those?
So I still have those 15 by myself. So we probably have like 50 together. We're probably leveraged at like 65%, 70%.
Damn, bro, that's really good. They're all locked in like 4% or lower, most of them, right?
A lot of our portfolio is on like 4 to 5% debt.
And they're 30-year fixed, right?
Yeah.
You want to talk a little bit about the 30-year fixed loans that we have, and then the commercial mortgages where it's like not fixed.
I'd love to. Yes, I mean, when you have a W-2 job, the best part about it is the debt you can get from it. So leveraging that to get your 30-year Fannie, if you can get a Fannie Freddie product, so government-backed loan, you're going to get market rate interest. So when this was 2020, 2021, this was in the 2s and 3s. So I was just in the right place at the right time. I was learning about it, and I was just getting all this debt, and my rents are covering my debt. So now I'm locked in for 30 years. Those rates don't float. So the only things that are going to change, so principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, my principal and interest are locked. The only things that are going to be variable now for me are my taxes and my insurance. So taxes naturally are going to go up. Insurance maybe a little bit as well. But the good thing about that is rents do as well too. So if you can get that type of debt, you got to get it. I like the higher the amortization I can get, because if I have equity, I can always refinance that in the future. Whereas commercial property or commercial debt portfolio products, you're going to get 20 to 25 year amortizations, which is cutting 5 to 10 years off of your payment schedule. So you're paying less interest, but your payments are also more. So you have to get better deals, especially in a single family space, to make them cash flow. So if you're relying on cash flow in a commercial product, you have to maybe go into multis or get better single family deals, or bundle these deals together to make them cash flow and work out.
Yeah,
and
it's very go for it.
And the rates can float.
Yeah, so sorry.
I said they will float typically.
Yeah, they will float. So this is really interesting, guys. I mean, I want you guys to whoever's listening to it to understand this is so crazy and important that a lot of people miss it, right? Because they want to be like, oh, I want to buy a 20 unit, 30 unit, which is cool. Buy a 20, 30 unit. Like Grant Cardone always like, buy 16 or don't buy anything, right? It's cool. It's a cool story. It's a cool clip. Now, here's the difference. So all of my properties, I mean, I do have a 2% interest in a 44 unit, right? Okay, whatever. That's even that is fixed for 5 years at 4.5%, right? And it's we're only in it for the second year now. Now, outside of that, all of my properties are 1 to 4 units, which means they're all single family 30-year fixed notes, right? So the thing I want people to understand, what Tommy was just saying is they're all 30-year fixed with no prepayment penalty, which means I can redo this loan anytime I want and not have any penalty. So which means there is very little risk of us losing the property as long as you break even or make money in the first year, right? Even if you don't, the second year, the rents go up slightly, third year rents go up slightly. It makes your life easier and easier. And in the meantime, we have a recession, you're locked in at 7.5%. You could go to 4.5%. You can lock it down, right? But not when you go with the commercial stuff. If you buy stuff which is going to float, which means the interest rate will change either third year, second year, fifth year at some point, right? And if you got the houses 5 years ago, you locked it at 3%, it's coming back now at 8%, you're done. You better have the NOI really go up in the 5 years. If it doesn't meet your 1.25 DSCR, the bank's going to call you and be like, you need to do a $100,000 cash in refinance, or I'm taking the property. It's just crazy. A lot of people don't know. They're just buying all these things and they're like, oh no, what do I do? I had Robert Martinez on my podcast. Do you know who he is? Rockstar Capital. Great guy. He's friends with Grant Cardone. He has like 1,000 units. He just got foreclosed on a $50 million property. He just lost like 15 million or, whatever it is. I don't know the exact amount, but we're talking millions. And this guy is not like a joke. Like he's like, oh, I just bought stuff yesterday. No, this guy is a freaking genius. He knows all kinds of stuff. Even these guys are getting hit, so it's like, you got to be careful when you get into these big deals and stuff. If you don't understand the numbers, you do all these debt, you'll lose your shit for sure. So, just sort of my 2 cents.
An amazing point. And you said cash in refinance. I thought I was the only one that said that. I mean, I've done a few of them. They're not great. They're not fun. Everybody talks about the cash out ones, but nobody's talking about the cash in refinances. And they hurt the bank account because it takes a lot of time to recoup cash flow from hard cash. So yeah, just highly encourage, man, just go to masterminds, like go to places where people have done this stuff and learn. Like take a banking, one of my friends does it. He does a commercial lending mastermind where he teaches how to talk to banks, how to talk to commercial, how to read that stuff. And it's just an absolute game changer once you learn it.
That's awesome, man. So, you wanted to talk a little bit about your mom who was a teacher for like 30 years, right? So what's going on there? She just made her retire or what?
Yeah, so she when I was still living at home after that during the first flip, so I lived at home and then I did the first flip. I lived in it. So before that, I was like, "Hey, mom, I'm going to start flipping houses. You should get your real estate license. It's going to be great. I'm going to flip a lot of houses." And she was like, oh, "Okay." And she was teaching at the time. She was a teacher of 30 years. She was a high school algebra teacher. So uh, ninth and 10th graders, really like the worst kids ever. So
Mhm.
she was doing that and she got her license in time to sell that first house. My uncle told her no, which is her brother. So couldn't sell the house for us, which ended up being amazing because it would have ruined a lot of relationships because it didn't sell for what we thought for. It would sell for. We had to fire one agent, long story. But she then sold the next one and then sold a few more after that. And it just started to snowball. So over time, she was replacing this income that she was making from her teacher salary of like 70, 75 grand, whatever it is, after being tenured for so long. But she still hated getting up in the morning. And schools changed so much in 30 years. So you go from kids not having phones to now kids having phones and smoking vapes and stuff in class. And it's like, I was just like, Mom, what's it going to take? What is it? Why will you not quit? And I'm one of five kids. We're very blue collar. She's like, and my dad's an entrepreneur. She said, I need the health insurance. The family needs the health insurance. We need it. Like there are a bunch of athletes in the family. Everybody's always injured. We need the health insurance. So I said, okay, what's the dollar amount on the health insurance? Like, what do you need to make? So she's like, I need to make like $85,000. So I said, okay, done. We started an Airbnb company. She is the operator of that business. She loves design. She designs all our rehabs, and she also is amazing at decorating. So she decorates all of them. She runs the Airbnbs. We have about 25 that she manages. She gets paid about $65,000 to $70,000 salary, and she sells all my flips. So she'll make probably $250,000 to $300,000 this year, being full time in real estate. And she works a lot less, which is awesome.
Damn, bro, that's really cool, man. That's you're able to do that to your family. Like real estate changes lives for so many people and families. You just have to stick to it for the long term and kind of play all the cards right. And it's very forgiving too. Like, you lost 100 grand. It's not like, okay, whatever. Like, sure, it hurts. But if you stick in it long term, you can always come out. That's really cool.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it just changes like if nobody in your family's ever done it. So now, granted, we were in the inspection stuff and property
Sure.
preservation, but she thought I was crazy when I said I was going to start investing, like nuts. The first
Yeah.
house hack, she didn't buy it. She was like, "You're not living in that neighborhood," and I was like, "Absolutely, I am. You can't tell me what I'm doing."
Yeah.
And it ended up all working out. And it's just like it takes one person in a family. Ed Milet talks about that. Like there's one person in the family that has to go and think a little bit bigger and go a little bit outside the box, get told they're stupid for a little while, and then everything kind of comes back. It's like, holy that person was right, and let's follow. So now my brother is an inspector. He invests. He probably made like 300 grand this year flipping houses. My youngest brother just graduated college. He's going to do the same thing. And everybody in the family is kind of following along. So it's a blessing.
And then do you only invest in Ohio?
Yeah. Only in Columbus, Ohio right now. I'll probably go other areas at some point, but I'm very, very micro in my thinking. I want to dominate my backyard before I go anywhere else because I think people jump market to market way too fast. So I'm very dominate backyard type mentality.
That's really cool. And Ohio is pretty landlord friendly state, right?
Very.
Evictions take what, less than a month?
Probably 2 months. It depends on
Okay.
if they show up or not. Like if they go and fight it, they'll definitely kind of lean back and forth, but probably takes 2 months.
Okay. That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, we live in California. It's like a pain. So we started buying in Bakersfield, and then a little bit closer now we buy in Orange County. But this year we started buying in Tennessee. So
Okay. Nice.
we're buying north of Nashville.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. And you're single family buy and hold, or you said 1 to 4?
Yeah, they're all almost all of them are duplexes, but I did start buying newer builds now. So I have a
Damn.
couple of new builds. Yeah,
That's cool.
because of they'll be getting some credits and stuff from the builders and things like that. I have a really good team. Yeah. How's the Airbnb side stuff going, man? Like, is that Columbus, Ohio? A lot of people visit.
They do and they don't. I mean, I mean, Ohio State games you're booked,
Yeah.
but it's so saturated, man. I mean, everybody. I mean, I feel like there's a reason why there's no Instagram ads anymore for people trying to arbitrage and sell those courses. It's just oversaturated, and a lot of the Airbnbs are kind of cannibalizing their pricing against each other. So I don't know. It pays the bills, but it's nothing to brag about.
How much does it make more than a long-term rental? 1.5, 2 times, or
Probably 1.5 on a good month.
1.5? Yeah, I would definitely. I mean, unless you're going to bleed cash if you go back. I would trade some 25-40% to not do Airbnbs. We have all of our Orange County stuff is all furnished, so
Yeah.
that's the only way we can make the mortgage. It's very expensive here.
Wow.
Yeah, so we do. Or have you looked into midterm rentals at all?
I have, but then I haven't at the same time. Like I
Okay.
understand, I just don't have a market to it. Eventually, I'm going to dive in because once you spend 100,000 plus on furniture, like you got to figure out
Yeah.
how to rent it with furniture in it. Midterm seems like it's a good option.
Yeah, that's crazy. Now, how those portfolio you got, the long term rentals, man, like how much, or even with the short term, like how much are you cash flowing per month? You got 65
Um,
units. You got to
our
be making
net's like,
like 50 grand, right?
yeah, I mean, our net's
Bro,
probably like 25, 30, I would say. I'd
that's
have to look
net,
at it.
right?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. And then you drop that money into the flipping business, and it takes up eats up a lot of your cash, or what?
Yeah, I mean, we're growing. We have probably 8 staff members in house, so we're growing. We have overhead. We're aggressive too, so money kind of recirculates back into the business a lot.
Mhm. That's cool. I mean, but the flipping side by itself, they're profitable too, right? It's not like
Yeah.
you're feeding money from the long term, right? Yeah.
No,
So
the
then,
long term really pays the salaries. So we pay stuff. So we own the property. We own the property management company too. So we manage about 90 units, I would say, a couple for my parents, a couple for my friends. So that stuff all pays the salaries for the flipping company, the wholesaling company. We have a dispo manager. We have 2 acquisitions. We have a transaction coordinator, office manager, flipping company project manager, and then the property management. We have a full time maintenance guy and a full time staff member, as well as a full time content guy. So that net income really kind of pays those salaries monthly, and then the flipping and wholesaling is our active income streams to go above and beyond.
okay, wow, that's cool. And then the flipping side of stuff, how much are you guys netting after all these salaries then?
It just depends on the month. So I mean, this year, I mean, the flipping company did pretty well. I mean, we'll make over 7 figures
Wow,
net.
that's really cool, man. Even in this market.
Yeah, I mean, we were taking a couple of losses on a few, but we still have a couple that did really well. So we're
Yeah.
still doing 20, 25, 35, 40, 50-ish on a decent amount. Like we just went in contract on one yesterday. We'll make 55. Yeah, they're still doing pretty well, but we are taking losses on a few other ones.
Wow, that's really cool. Even in that market, so people are just buying, just regular people buying, or are you guys selling to like big investments?
Mostly like first time home buyers.
Wow, that's really cool. That's nice to hear. I like people, Americans buying stuff and owning stuff. Like too much of the country becomes all own nothing, be happy kind of. Then it becomes like Walmart owns everything and everybody's just slaves now. It's crazy.
It's gonna turn back to that if and when rates drop again. So I highly recommend, if anybody here, you got to get your slice of the pie, because these people have more money than anybody, and they will overpay. And then you think investors would want to sell to first time home buyers, but if they're getting 10 grand more, 20 grand more on a cash offer, they're going to take it. So you got to make it upon yourself to get your slice of the pie.
Yeah, man. So what would be like first I want to finish up with like first what does your path look like for you for the next year, 2024? What is your forecast?
2024. So we have a real estate community that we started. So the real side of real estate. So taking my inspecting knowledge and the investing knowledge to teach people how to wholesale and flip. So it's a community that we're growing. So I want to grow that to we have about 100 or so people in there now. I want to grow it into the hopefully up to like 300, 500 people by the end of next year. And then I want everybody in my company to make 6 figures. That's hopefully non-negotiable. And then just continue to push out of the day-to-day business and get on to bigger things, like looking at bigger deals. I want to be able to grow the portfolio from 60. I want to hopefully double it. I think that would be awesome. It's a good challenge. So we have all the systems and processes in place, the construction teams. We just got to get the proper deal flow and make sure we just kind of go for it.
That's cool, man. Yeah, so glad to hear your story. What do you think of the market for economy for 2024? Think we're going to hit a recession? You think rates will drop? What's your
I feel like
predictions?
we already kind of are, or we're in a recession. I think we still are. I mean, kind of are. I just don't think it's going to be that bad just because of the supply, unless everybody starts to sell their Airbnbs or whatever they have and just start flooding the market with stuff. And then everybody talks about the election season. I think election season, they'll drop a little bit. I don't know. I think everybody just gets readjusted to new norms too. So
Yeah.
like a 7.5 or 8, what it is right now, it's high, but historically it's not. So adjusting to new norms, buying better deals, buyers actually being picky and requesting remedy items on flips, that's a normal market. So we got to
Yeah.
get
Sorry?
we got to get used to flips not selling in one day, 30 grand over ask.
Yeah, that's such an interesting point that you made about how people get adjusted to the norm. Like it's
Yeah.
just like, like what do you mean? Like you don't get 2.5 uh, rates? I'm not going to buy. Okay,
Right.
well, Tommy and I are going to buy. So good luck. Like, what do you mean? Like you have to get adjusted. It's like, oh, most of my friends I meet are like, I'm saving to buy, in your neighborhood. I'm like, I know how much you make. You can never buy in my neighborhood. Like you're done because you made fun of us for buying in Bakersfield for the last 5 years. We got smashed in the face, bought in Bakersfield, bought like C neighborhoods, slowly bought C plus B. Eventually we were able to buy in Orange County and live in it. But that's the game I decided to play for 5 years. Right. So you didn't, your first house was not $1 million mansion. You bought what is it, $60,000?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you bought a $180,000 FHA loan, $9,000 down. I mean, come on, like that's the way to go. That's awesome,
Yeah.
man. Do you have anything to add? Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, man, I was just going to say, so I always end with this. I ask the guest, a lot of my listeners are either trying to buy the first property or the next property, obviously, right? What do you tell them? Like, hey, this is a bad time to buy, good time to buy. I mean, this will probably come out. We're recording end of after Thanksgiving 2023. It'll probably come out December or January. 2024. Like, what do they wait another 10 years? What's the deal?
No, a lot of people are. And this is what everybody asks for first and foremost. Everybody asks for deals to start popping up. So deals are popping up. You have to adjust. You have to be able to write number. You have to underwrite a deal well, and you're not going to cash flow a ton. But if you have the equity, that's the biggest piece. So if you can buy a good deal, cash flow a couple $100, you're going to create equity if and when rates drop with a refinance. So load up right now, buy really good deals because they're out there, and don't get greedy. So solidify a buy box and be able to attack when you see the good deals.
Yeah, that's such you talk from experience now, after we both got smashed in the face, that's a lot of people ask when I have meetups. I have one coming up next month. People come Orange County Country Club, but they always ask, is it a good time to buy? Is it, it's like, that's not the question you should be asking. I know that's you don't have anything figured out if you ask me that question. The question is, how do I buy? Like that's the question you need to have. How do I get into the game? Like, it's not like if like, people, what they told me in 2018 when I bought a triplex for $250,000. Oh, dude, you overpriced. It's overpriced, dude. You shouldn't have got it. I sold it last year for $460.
Oh my God.
And they told me, oh, dude, you messed up. Oh, you bought 5.5%. Oh, dude, you're a joke.
Control what you can control. I mean, I don't freak out about the market because if I lose sleep at night, I can't control that. What I can control is starting to learn what does work, how much money I have, what can I actually afford, and going towards that with unwavering faith.
That's crazy, man. Now, so for people who are trying to contact you, get to you, how do they do that? What's the website? Instagram?
Yeah. Instagram, Tommy Harr 05. So that I respond to all my DMs. I love helping whoever out. So shoot me a DM. The only thing I ask is have a really good question. So don't ask like, how do I get started? Ask me like something deeper so I can actually give you advice that you can act on, So be prepared for anybody. Just have a really good question and hopefully take action on it.
Tommy with 2 M's and Harr with 2 R, right?
Right.
Nice. What's the 05 for?
Honestly, nothing. It was my soccer number in high school, and
Oh,
I
that's cool.
made my Instagram in high school, so it was just I never changed it.
That's awesome, man. Well, thanks for coming on the show, man.
Dude, it's been a pleasure. I appreciate your time. I'm excited to build a relationship with you and your community as well.
Yeah, let's do it, dude. Thanks, dude.
I don't know about you, but I definitely like to see 5-star reviews on any service or any product before I purchase. Please take a second to leave us a 5-star review, whether you're listening to it on Apple, iTunes, or Spotify, or whatever platform. Take a second, goes a long way, helps us a lot to grow the channel, and thanks for listening.